So my mom got me this new thing. I'm gonna just turn it on real quick. I don't know if you guys can really tell, but my mom watches my videos and she says my lighting's pretty bad. So, she gave me this little globe here. This little ball of light where hopefully the lighting will be better because the lighting, in my videos aren't very good, and I would agree with that. I don't think the lighting is particularly good, but you guys come for the personality. I get that. So, but I appreciate it nonetheless. So, Mom, if you watch this, she probably will. She's been watching the last couple of my videos. Um, Thank you. Thank you a lot. Hello, everyone. Britton here, also known as Smoky Dude, and today it's going to be a bit of a different type of video. It's not really a discussion video. Well, I guess it kind of is because, I'm going to be talking about, just going to be talking about certain things in my life. It's going to be a bit of a different video because I'm going to open myself up a little bit, and I don't generally talk about my personal life too much in my videos because, in all honesty, I don't think that really matters. I don't think you guys really want to know what I'm doing in my daily life. It's quite boring. But it is Autism Awareness Month, and I thought since I myself have Asperger's disorder, I should make a video talking about that and kind of talking about my journey a little bit because I watched Alan's. I'm tempted to call it a video, but it was really a live stream where he talked about being neurodivergent and being married to Christina and how they managed to deal with his autism. And I remember when I first saw that stream, I thought I really have to make a response to that in some way. I really need to do something about it. And I also talked with my friend D from Through the Pages with D. Her children, I think one of her daughters has autism. I'm not entirely sure, but it was kind of funny. We were on my podcast the other day. I had her on my podcast a few weeks back, and I told her I had autism, and she's like, "I know, I know." It's like, oh, you just made a little bat deduction. She's like, "I've been around them. I know." So, yeah, I'm gonna talk about autism today, and I have Asperger's disorder a lot like Alan does, and to be honest, like, I'm not ashamed of talking about it. I don't really have a lot of I don't have a lot of shame talking about like, if you asked me if I had autism, I'll tell you about it, but it's not something I kind of parrot out there because it's like, like, it's not something. I don't mind talking about it. I'm obviously making this video right now. But I wanted to talk about it in some way. This is going to be a bit of a different video. I'm going to be probably saying and a lot. Probably going to ramble a little more than I usually do because I actually did not write bullet points for this video. I'm really just going off the cuff here. This is really my first off-the-cuff video I've done in a very long time. And, yeah, again, you're probably going to hear me say and a lot. You're probably going to hear me ramble a little bit. Let's get into it. I'm really done stalling. Yes, I have Asperger's disorder. I've known I have had Asperger's disorder since I was around 10 or 11 years old. My parents told me. Where to start? Well, I grew up. I won't share too much of my backstory, but I grew up in the small town, aka largest city in my home state, of Oklahoma City. And I remember even when I was a kid, I always felt like I was different from other kids, and I didn't know why. I didn't know I had autism at the time, but I always had that, like, it's weird. Like, I never really suspected I had autism, but I always felt that I was different from other people in some way. I just felt like there's just certain things that kids would do that kids were doing when I was a kid that I wasn't doing. So, I always kind of felt like an outsider in a lot of ways, and I still do. I'm very gregarious on YouTube, but generally I keep to myself. In my personal life, I tend to keep to myself. I don't really talk to a lot of people. I mean, I've gotten better at it. I've grown more assured, but I was always kind of that quiet kid in the back who didn't really make a lot of problems, and would kind of you'd have to poke me with a stick to do things that I kind of wasn't really feeling like doing. Um, and I always felt like I was different from other kids. It also helped that I would take these speech. I would be pulled out of class. I would go to these speech. Um, they what do you call them? Sessions, class. They weren't really classes. They were more like sessions where I would do these little exercises with these speech specialists. I had a couple of good friends of mine who I grew up with who I met because we would go to these similar things, and yeah, so I always knew in some way I was different, but I never really suspected that I had autism. I mean, I had heard of it. I had heard of it. There was I actually remember I got up early for school one day, and I was watching, because my usual routine is I would lay on my couch and I would watch my television, and we were watching Disney Channel because I watched a lot of Disney Channel when I was a kid, and there was this, they would have these little like these kind of like what I'm doing right now, sharing stories. It was this girl who had a brother. Either, I don't remember if it was younger or older. I think it was older actually, but I'm not sure. Um, and he described having autism, so I knew what autism was, and that was, it's funny because I actually knew. Um, it's funny. I never again. I never suspected I had autism, but that was funny. So I knew what autism was from that kind of clip. Um, but yeah, for some reason I always knew I was different. I always kind of excelled in certain things that kids would find boring. I mean, I would crack open a history book just for fun. Though I guess that's not really autism. That's just kind of me doing my normal kids like. There's some kids who like history. I get that. I remember I would often get picked on when I was in school because I was kind of a rules stickler. Because what I've learned is a lot of people with Asperger's really like to follow rules to the T. Like, we really don't like we're very routine oriented. And I will say Alan uh, brought up a lot of these points, so I won't try to parrot them here. But as I've grown older and I've grown more aware of what autism is as a, I don't want to call it a disorder because it's not really a disorder, it's a condition. It's just something you have. Um, and uh, I got picked on a lot when I was a kid because I would often want to follow the rules to the T, and other kids just weren't like that, and they just thought I was kind of a brown noser. There were other reasons I got bullied, but I won't really go into that because, in all honesty, I don't want to really go into that. It's not really something I want to talk about. But I always felt like I was different, is the point I'm trying to make. And I never knew why. I always was kind of curious. It was always in the back of my head. It wasn't something I like angsted about every day. It was just kind of something I knew. It was just something in the background. It was always there. It was like that. It was like that gut feeling. It's like having a gut feeling. You know it, but you just can't like put your finger on it. It was kind of like that. And I really didn't have the language to describe what it was until one day. It's funny, I'll never forget this. My dad and I went to a toy store because I was really into like action figures and toys when I was a kid. Um, and I loved it. I loved like toy soldiers. I loved action figures. That was really what initially sparked my interest in like comic books, because I used to get these superhero action figures and there would be little comics in there, and I would start reading those comics, and that's really kind of what inspired me to read more comics. But I'm getting off point here. We were going to a toy store one day, and my dad and I were kind of just, and I remember I had seen a sign about autism on the wall, I think is what it was. We were at the store. We got whatever we were gonna get. I forgot what we got. But we got in the car. We were driving home, and I asked my dad, what's autism? Because I mean, I already had an idea on what it was, but I wanted to hear my dad explain it. Because when you're a kid, you're always looking to your parents. You're always like, "Hey, mom. Hey, dad. What's this thing? What's this thing that I'm studying or whatever?" And my parents are like, "I don't freaking know." But my dad ended up explaining to me that, like, well, autism is this thing where you're kind of different from other people, and he kind of started explaining a little bit. He explained some people who were well noted who might have had it because, well, to be honest, we haven't really known what autism is until not too long ago. So there are people kind of like Thomas Jefferson or Albert Einstein or Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, very famous people who are very likely to have had Asperger's, but we didn't know it because, well, they didn't have a word for that back in the day. So my dad kind of explained this to me, and he basically was listing off people, and then he said my name. I'll admit, I thought my dad was joking at first. I was kind of snickering. But no, my dad was not kidding. He was really being serious. So that's how I learned I had autism, and I ended up doing more research about that, and it was kind of an awkward experience. It was one of the, I remember there was this documentary I saw from Demi Lovato a long time ago, where she was talking about when she got diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and she just was like, when I learned I had bipolar, so many things started making sense. It was a very similar way for me when I learned I had autism. Just so many things really made sense for me. Like, why was I so obsessed with putting these things in certain order? Why was I so routine oriented? Did I not fully grasp, like, sarcasm when someone was being sarcastic? It all kind of started making sense. Why I always had, because I always had a problem with, another reason I got bullied is I had a problem with staring at people. I don't know why I did this. I was always like, I still struggle with this, but I would like stare at people, and that makes people uncomfortable. Well, I learned that's a thing of autism. When somebody with autism looks at you, they really are looking at you, and again, they don't. And autism is really about trying to figure out social graces. So, like, for instance, I'm not really they would like deeply stare at somebody or say something that might be a little too blunt or inappropriate. But going back to my point, a lot of things made sense, but of course, I wasn't pleased with my parents for not telling me this sooner. Now, I should note, I understood why they didn't tell me. I mean, I was a kid, I was like, God, when they told me I was 10, 11 maybe? I don't remember exactly, but I was actually driving, it was from a little writing conference for people who were good at writing. It's funny, I remember that. But anyway, I was kind of upset at my parents for a while because they didn't tell me, and I mean, I wasn't mad. I mean, I knew why they did it, but I was still kind of mad that they didn't tell me because, I'm like, that's a pretty big deal. I didn't know about this, and it was just a thing. It wasn't something that like, I wasn't devastated or anything. Like I said, a lot of things, once I learned I had autism, it kind of made sense, but I never suspected that I actually had autism. It's really weird how that works. It's, but I eventually came to terms with it. I'm like, you know what? It's not the end of the world. There are better things to be upset about, I guess, as I like to say. And, my parents have, and I remember my dad telling me that a doctor had told him when they first diagnosed me that I would never tell him that I loved him. Yeah. I mean, I can't even imagine how my dad felt. I mean, if I can tell you how I felt, that felt horrible. It was a terrible thing. But I managed to lead a relatively successful life. But, it's a, again, a lot of the things Alan said, he put it in a lot more eloquently than I put it, really, than I could probably put it. But really, the next couple of years, I learned what it was. I basically learned how to come to terms with the fact I have autism. And, I mean, I still got bullied, that wasn't fun. And, but, like, no one really, it was really nice because you probably wouldn't tell that I have autism unless I told you. I mean, one of the things about being autistic is we're really very, very routine oriented. Like, we don't like being taken out of our routine. That's why I upload so many videos. A lot of people are like, damn, you're putting out a lot of videos. It's like, yeah, because I make a schedule for myself and I keep to it as much as I can. That's why I put out a lot of videos. Well, I don't think that's the only reason. I also just really enjoy making videos. But one of the reasons why I put out a lot of videos is because of what I just mentioned. Like I said, this isn't really structured. This is kind of me just unloading about having autism. But I don't want to say the usual cliches, like I don't feel too different from anyone else, or autism is only a part of who I am, because that's apparent to a lot of people. I don't expect to be judged because I have autism. I don't mind if you make autism jokes. I mean, I used to be kind of bugged by it a little bit when I first learned I had autism, but now I just kind of, I'm like, yeah, sometimes I'll make them myself. It's not something that offends me too much. I mean, if you crap on autistic people, then I'll probably have a problem. I'll probably have a problem with you. But, I mean, I don't mind jokes or anything like that. I've learned how to deal with it. I've managed to graduate high school. I managed to get through college. I'm getting through college. I'm still in college. But I've managed to get in college. I've stuck with that for a very long time. And, I'm living a pretty good life so far. I mean, there's still a lot of things that, I still struggle with. I mean, I don't know if there's going to be, like a girl who'll love me, or, if I'm going to be able to. I still have worries, like I still worry about if I can live an independent life, because, I'm so routine oriented, and I'm always nervous about that. And if I can, do good in like social situations, because a lot of the time I'm just here in my house. I'm often by myself. So, it's not like, it's always a journey, and I remember hearing autism be described as, basically, it's like if an alien came down to Earth and decided to, and discovered what it was like living among, human beings. And I would say it's a pretty good analogy. I mean, I would probably go as far as to say, like, go to another country. It's kind of like that, basically. Like, you don't know their customs, you don't know how they act, you don't know what their, beliefs are. It's kind of like that, being an autistic person. But there's not really much else for me to say. I mean, again, I'm sorry if this is kind of rambly. This is just kind of a reflection over the fact that I have autism, and just something I wanted to share with you guys, because I love you all, and you guys have been very kind to me while I've been on BookTube. But I wanted to thank Alan for making his live stream. I think it was incredibly... It was quite nice to hear as a fellow Aspie. I appreciate that he made it. I also wanted to thank D for encouraging me to make this video, because in all honesty, I didn't really know how I was going to make it. I thought about making bullet points talking about it, or just doing this kind of off the cuff like I'm doing right now. But yeah, not really much else for me to say, but I have autism, and you know what? I'm okay with that. I'm okay with who I am. There's victory in that. Anyway, I think that's all I have for today. You know what to do. Like, subscribe. As my friend John Minton likes to say, feels good when you press the like and subscribe button. You can find me on Twitter, Letterboxd, Goodreads, where I write reviews that are probably more coherent than the one you just heard right now. You can also find me on Discord. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And until next time.